Hey everyone, Maz here, and I'm back with my man Foch. Foch, what are we doing today?
Today we're talking about our top cigars with nutty tasting notes.
So here's what we did. I compiled my top 5 list of nutty cigars.
And I chose mine.
So what we're going to do, before we get into our list and share it with you, we got to pick a cigar for ourselves.
All right.
You ready to go?
Ready.
I know what I'm choosing.
Me too.
So Foch, what are you smoking?
So right now I'm smoking the Tatuaje Hibaro.
Good choice.
Which is pretty unique because it has a unfinished foot.
Yeah.
Which means you can get a chance to taste the filler and binder before it combusts with the wrapper.
Yeah, and then for people out there who've never seen a cigar with an unfinished foot, essentially what happens is the wrapper just comes down almost to the end, but it exposes the binder and filler tobaccos. So as Foch said, you can get a taste of those tobaccos before the wrapper actually kicks in.
Right.
Do you remember ever doing this? Like, you could actually do that yourself. So get the foot of the cigar, get a guillotine cutter, and kind of just score it. It's a little tricky. I don't want people damaging their cigars, but you could actually do a circular cut, and it takes off a little bit of the wrapper.
Yeah, and you could see how the difference.
The wrapper obviously influences the cigar greatly, and I kind of like the fact that Pete Johnson and the My Father people did that with that Hibaro, which, by the way, that's a fantastic blend.
It is a great blend. I mean, it's got a Corojo wrapper on it, Corojo 99,
Yep.
Nicaraguan, Puro.
It's a beautiful cigar. A lot of oil in the wrapper. It's got that really reddish brown kind of hue to it. You know, I'm smoking the La Roma de Cuba Pasión, which is also a Nicaraguan Puro. This has a proprietary wrapper on there. It's just actually a shade-grown project, but it's a phenomenal blend, very unique. I always tell people with the Pasión, because of the wrapper variety or where it's grown in Nicaragua, it's a region that before tobacco was grown there by the Garcias, no tobacco had grown. Very special wrapper variety that lends itself to be very different from anything in their portfolio. Even the My Father portfolio or the Ashton portfolio, which this is part of. You know, and obviously today we're talking about cigars that bring a nutty quality. And you know, for people out there that say, you know, I never really gather that from cigars, I have to say, I know some people, and that I respect their opinion on cigars, they say, you know, I don't really get that. No, it just doesn't hit, but everybody's palate's different.
I mean, I don't get it all the time. I do get it, obviously, in what we chose here today.
Well, yeah, I mean, traditionally, I get it more for Nicaraguan tobacco.
Yeah.
It obviously has something to do with the soil there, but I traditionally get it more from Nicaraguan than I do Dominican.
Yeah.
Now, in my list, I do have a Dominican cigar, which I'll get to.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember when Nicaraguan tobacco first started becoming really prevalent in our industry, which obviously prior, Dominican tobacco dominated. I remember brands out there that were Nicaraguan, you know, made cigars, and that nut quality, that nutty quality, jumped out at me as something that was different that I hadn't had before in the Dominican tobacco world. So, you know, what we compiled today was our list of cigars that to us, it's almost unmistakable, right? That jump out. There's obviously plenty of cigars out there that will have that characteristic, but we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to search for it. And a lot of times you can't always nail it down to exactly what nut we're talking about. Right. So for me, you know, I've talked about the Pasión before. To me, the tasting note that I get out when it says nuttiness is smoked cashew, which sounds very specific, but it really is. Because there's a smokiness to it, and there's definitely a cashew note to it. Now, of course, the cigar has other elements going on. There's leather, there's definitely spice there. But to me, in the Pasión, that smoked cashew note is like, to me, it's unmistakable.
Yeah.
But it's a phenomenal blend.
I mean, the two nuts that mainly I get when I'm trying to taste or you know, go for that nutty quality. I usually get, like you said, cashew and almond.
Yeah.
You know, on occasion, which is it's very rare, like the cigar I smoked yesterday, kind of had almost like a sunflower.
Yeah, you said.
seed.
Yeah.
It was weird, which I never got before.
Well, I've never got that before either. And again, like I said, I know people that have been smoking for years. They can grab other tasting notes.
Yeah.
But when you tell them about a nutty quality, even for cigars that we chose today, they're like, I just don't get that. But that's because everyone's palate's different. But we wanted to put a list together where we thought it would be the best example of what we're talking about. Yeah. And, you know, so aside from the Passion and the Hebrew, what else do you have there on your list, Foch?
So I went with the Ashton cabinet.
Great choice.
Dominican cigar,
right.
Golden Connecticut wrapper. There is a little pepper there, but I still get that. I get both cashew and almond on that one. You know, it's very refined, a lot of age on that cigar. You know, it smokes stronger than you think, but it's not full body.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's still medium at its strongest.
Body, yes.
But a ton of character.
Oh, a lot of character.
And the great part about the cabinet is because it is very approachable and there's a lot of age on it. The nutty quality to it, it's a creamy note too, but that nutty quality really stands out with that cigar. It would have been on my list if it didn't make your list. Of course, we try not to have overlapping choices, but that cabinet, to me, always, and especially because, you know, as I said, I find it more Nicaraguan tobacco than Dominican tobacco. But that's one of the Dominican cigars, to me, that has that nutty quality to it. And I just, the combination with the kind of creamy notes that it brings to the table, there's an elegance to that cigar, and there's definitely a nutty quality to it. And speaking of Dominican tobacco, I might as well stick with the theme. On my list, I chose the Fuente 858 Rosado. Now this is a little bit more of a, you know, a unique, kind of rare.
It's hard to get.
Hard to come by. But the 858 Rosado, to me, has that nutty quality that we're talking about. You know, it's a Habano wrapper. It's much different from the original. The original is Cameroon.
Right.
Right, and there's Maduro variations. There's actually Candela. So there's different iterations of the cigar. But the Rosado, which is a little bit harder to find, if you find it, to me, that has that nutty quality by Fuente. So I don't know how Carlito does it. I don't know how Fuente does it in general, because obviously they make the Ashton as well. But there's something going on with their tobacco that it does bring a nuttiness to the table from Dominican Republic, which I have to say, overall, I don't get that from a lot of Dominican factories. As a matter of fact, the only one at the top of my head I can think of is Fuente.
Right.
But 858 Rosado is definitely worth seeking out. If you've never had it, it's an outstanding blend. And I would say this medium plus as far as strength, but it has a great nuttiness to it. There's definitely some leather at the cigar, but this is a treat cigar. You know, I figured I wanted to throw something out there that, you know, I really enjoy and it has that quality. I know it's a little hard to come by, but you know what? It's worth searching for. So what else you have there, Foch?
So next I went with the Perdomo 10th Anniversary Sun-Grown, which in this particular cigar, obviously it's nice and spicy, but this one has that smoked almond flavor along with like a graham cracker note. You know, like I said before, for me it's kind of tough to pick out all the different nuts that I get, but this one in particular, you know, like a smoked almond note. Yeah,
and I think it's worth noting. I mean, we're trying to be specific about it. There's many times I'll be smoking a cigar, again, particularly from Nicaragua, and I'm like, this has a nutty quality to it, but I definitely can't put my finger on it per se. That's another reason why, even for me with my list, you know, to me, it doesn't have to be specific to me. It's just there's a nutty quality to it that I enjoy. And, you know, that kind of sometimes accompanies like sweet, it accompanies sometimes spice, but it's there as one of the major tasting notes in the cigars. You know, speaking of which, next up, I have the CAO Pilon. So, you know, I remember when this cigar was first released by CAO, you know, I was at the trade show, went over to the booth, and it was a new brand. And, you know, for people out there that don't know what Pilon is the process when tobacco is being fermented. They put it in piles, essentially, and they're called pilons. So it was kind of cool. CAO, what they did when they released the cigar, they actually brought in tobacco, and they had pilons set up at their booth. And they launched the cigar, and you know, I didn't even know the makeup, but now they're actually, the makeup is on the band, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan filler binder. And as soon as I lit up the cigar and I started smoking it, I was like, man, this cigar's got a lot of nuttiness, and it had like inherent sweetness. And I remember, I forget who was there at the booth, and I said, is there tobacco from Jalapa here? He was like, yeah. He was like, how'd you know that? I was like, it just sung to me because it had that sweet nuttiness at the same time. To me, was unmistakable. But when I think of a nutty cigar, I definitely think of the CAO Pilon. And you know, it's sometimes like you always remember the first time, right? Let's face it. So the first time I smoked that cigar, the first descriptor that came to my mind was the nuttiness, and there was like an aromatic sweet tobacco to it. But I'm a big fan of the CAO Pilon because of that. It's a very unique cigar in that aspect. What else you got, Foch?
So my next cigar is the La Roma de Cuba Edition Especial, known as the EE. Ecuadorian wrapper, Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan, made by the Pin family, the Garcia family. This particular cigar is one that I definitely can pick up that nuttiness from.
Yeah.
I would have to say it's like a roasted almond.
Yeah.
But again, it does have some spice too. It's an excellent blend, Cubanesque blend. Definitely top 5 for me in nutty cigars.
Yeah, and it definitely fits the criteria of that kind of Cubanesque flavor profile, which, by the way, it bears noting. When it comes to outside of Nicaragua, which we talked about.
Salud, by the way.
Yeah, cheers, by the way, sorry. Outside of Nicaragua and the few Dominican cigars, I have to say, Cuban cigars, traditional Cuban cigars, that has a nutty quality to it.
Yep.
I think that's why a lot of like old timers will tell you the closest thing to Cuban tobacco, is Nicaraguan tobacco,
right.
from their perspective, right? But there is, and I have to say, I got to give credit where credit's due. When I smoke a Cuban cigar, and obviously it's done right, I get a nutty quality from Cuban tobacco like Nicaraguan tobacco. And they are similar in that aspect. I do definitely get that. And there's been a lot of Cuban cigars over the years I've smoked. So for people out there that are obviously privy to a steady diet, they live, they don't live in the U.S. and they're smoking Cubans on a regular basis, they might be like, you know what, I get it from whatever, Cohiba, or I might get it from a Monte Cristo number 2. But Cuban tobacco, to me, definitely has a nuttiness to it.
Yeah,
that's one of the main
agree.
descriptors with Cuban tobacco for me. By the way, what are you sipping on there, buddy? Because people are going to want to know.
So I'm sipping on Bunnahabhain 12, I believe.
Very nice, a traditional Scotch.
Yeah.
I got a little Japanese whiskey.
Nice.
So I got the Yamazaki 12.
You like Japanese whiskey a lot.
I do, I have to say. I mean, and the thing
It is good. That one is good.
I'm kind of getting a reputation for that now. Because like people come into the shop now and they're like, man, you really love that Japanese whiskey. I really do. I mean, I like all different whiskeys, but Japanese whiskey is just like, to me, it's a perfect complement to cigars.
Yeah.
To me it is. I mean, not that other bourbons and regular traditional Scotch isn't, but it's hard to miss with a Japanese, especially the Yamazaki.
I mean, they do a
12.
good job.
They do.
And we talked about this a lot before that. I didn't even realize Japanese made whiskey.
They've been at it for a
For a
long
long
time,
time,
and they make great whiskey. But anyway, this is about cigars. We'll do a Japanese whiskey
Yeah.
episode. Hopefully, we'll do a flight of Japanese whiskeys
Yes.
to satisfy me, right? For
If we can get 'em,
reasons.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, next up on my list is a former #1 cigar of the year. This is the EPC Encore. So, Nicaraguan Puro. Rated 96 back in 2018, was the #1 cigar of the year in Cigar Aficionado.
Yep.
This is a cigar that is definitely spice forward, and it's a bold cigar for sure. But there's a nutty quality to it too. And I can't really put my finger on it. I mean, I've danced around a couple times when I smoked this. So it's like, it tastes like a walnut to me. There's a walnut flavor to it because it dries my mouth a little bit. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
so like
I get that a lot.
Yeah, so there's like an oakiness and also like a walnut flavor, I guess, if I had to put my finger on it. But I mean, this cigar, well-deserved 96 and former #1 cigar of the year. EPC Encore is an outstanding blend that definitely brings nuttiness to the table.
Yeah, I agree. So next up for me, my final cigar is the San Cristobal Quintessence, which has an Ecuadorian Habano Rosado wrapper, Nicaraguan filler binder, comes out of the Garcia factory. This particular cigar, I get a lot of milk chocolate out of that. So milk chocolate and almond kind of reminds me of like a candy bar.
Yeah, absolutely. And then guess what? I think you're spot on. I always say that cigar definitely, there's going to be cigars that cross over because people are like, you talk about chocolatey cigars, you talk about nutty cigars. Yeah, they bring both to the table.
Yeah.
And then when they're in combination with each other, I mean, it's a hell of a combination.
Sure it
I mean,
is.
we didn't come up with it. I mean, Milton Hershey probably came up with
Yeah.
it. But Milton Hershey knew what he was doing. Built an empire off of nuts
By
and
the way,
chocolate.
I do like Hershey with almonds.
I do too. I mean, who doesn't? Unless you have a nut aversion. If you have a nut allergy, don't eat that.
Right.
But you can still smoke nutty
You could
cigars.
smoke a Quintessence,
you can.
though.
Right. That's the closest you're going to get to a nut without going to the hospital. Is right here.
Yep.
Right? Because
True.
if you eat the Hershey's bar with almonds,
Yes.
yeah, you'll be EpiPenning yourself. So here you don't have to worry about it. No EpiPen necessary.
No,
right?
none needed.
None needed. Well, you know what? You brought up the My Father factory, so we might as well stick with a theme. My last cigar is the Don Pepin Series JJ. So this is a phenomenal blend, Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan filler binder. This is a cigar, to me, I think as far as their portfolio goes, it's on the milder side because a lot of my father product could definitely be a full body blend.
Definitely one of their milder blends.
But I still sits medium, maybe medium plus. But when I first, and as I went through the my father portfolio years ago, and obviously the Series JJ is one of their older blends.
Yeah.
As I was going around their portfolio, this was probably the first cigar that really resonated with me when it came to a nutty quality. I find that a lot. Obviously, they use Nicaraguan tobacco in their blends. All their filler tobaccos, all their binders is from Nicaragua. So there's other blends that they make that I do taste a nutty quality to. But to me, the one that's most prevalent, and that's why I chose this, is the Series JJ. Because to me, it definitely has more of a kind of like an almond taste to it, I guess, but there's a nutty quality to it. And I like the way it kind of plays with that Corojo wrapper. I'm a big fan of when they use Corojo in a blend, I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I'm a fan of anything they really make, you know that. But the Series JJ definitely has that nutty quality. And for people out there who are like, listen, I don't want a powerhouse. The Encore I smoked it was a little too strong for me. The Passion, still a little strong for me. I want to dial it back strength-wise. This is where the JJ would be perfect for that. You'll get that nutty quality, but there's also approachability to it. And it goes really well with whiskey.
Yep.
Really well with all these cigars do, by the way. All of them. I think any of these cigars here, a good Scotch. Obviously, you don't want to overpower. That's the other thing too. This is a good kind of a rule. If you're really searching for specific tasting notes, you want to dial it back on a spirit.
Yeah.
So it gets out of the way. Because if you have anything too aggressive, those notes you're looking for might be covered up by it.
Yeah, definitely be muted by it.
It might be. And honestly, if you want to just start out with some some coffee or some water, you go do that too.
Yep.
But when it comes to pairing spirits and searching for specific tasting notes,
Kind of tough.
it's tough, but you definitely want to have something that's just a little bit more approachable from a spirits perspective. Because if you bombard your palate, it's really hard to sort out those little different tasting notes.
Yeah.
So, but great list.
Yep.
I mean, you did a great job. You had some that I would actually grab from my list, but again, we didn't want to be redundant. But I think what we chose here is outstanding for people out there that are searching for that nutty quality we talk about so much. Some Dominican, but mostly Nicaraguan tobaccos. So, you know what? I guess the only thing to do is say goodbye.
goodbye.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here with us and sharing our nutty stories. But before we depart, make sure you hit that like button.
Smash the subscribe button, and we'll see you here next time.
Cheers, brother.
Salute.
Nuts to you.
Nuts. Yeah, I think we came up with a good list.
I like your list a lot. I do. I mean, I like my list a little bit better.
All right.
But when's the last time you smoked one of these rosados?
Long time.
They're so good.
They're
like
so rare.
They
so
are.
That's why.
But you know what? I'm telling you, when they're around, you got to get them.
Yeah.
Because they're unique. I mean, it's the 858 blend on the inside, but with that wrapper change, totally changes the cigar.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
So, and I love the 858 blend in general. So, but that one, to me, that one has that nuttiness of the 858s. As much as I like the Maduro, the Natural, the Candela, and the Sungrown.
Yeah.
It's a lot there.
There is.
The 858's a popular cigar.
Yeah.
Dude. For good reason. It's a great size too, by the way.
A little small for me, but I still smoke it.
It's a cigar smoker size, buddy.
Wow.
It's a unique shape. 47 ring gauge. When's the last time you saw that 47? Fuente puts their stamp on that.
Boom.
Bang. People at 46, 48, 50. Fuente's like, you know what? Nah.
No.
47. Unique.